I want to talk to you for a minute about how we can mix believable flesh. I use cool reds. The cool reds in my palette are fuchsia, rose madder, alizarin crimson. I don't use the hot reds. I find there's too much yellow there. It makes the flesh tone a little hotter than I like. I use Naples yellow, which really isn't a yellow. It's a very opaque color. People fuss about it because it's opaque, but if you add a little water to it, it becomes very transparent. Those two colors, and then add a little bit of raw sienna to that mixture, make believable flesh. The key ingredient really is Naples yellow. Most of this first wash, a very delicate high key flesh tone, is being made with just Naples yellow and a little bit of fuchsia. Now, if we want to add a little ruddier complexion, this is still Naples yellow, still fuchsia, but a little bit more fuchsia. It gives it just a bit more of a pinkish look. Then, if we want a little ruddier complexion, I'm adding a little raw sienna right into that mixture of Naples yellow and fuchsia. If we want it ruddier still, I'm just adding more raw sienna to the mixture, and instead of using fuchsia, I'm going to the next darker red, which is rose madder. For Latino, their pigmentation a little darker still, so a more generous mix of raw sienna and rose madder. Now for people of color, I don't use burnt sienna. Burnt sienna, again, has too much red in it, so I'm skipping burnt sienna and moving to sepia, a dark brown. I'm mixing it right into our mixture that we have on the palette. Just a little touch of sepia will give a light skin brown. Now I'm just adding a bit more sepia, and it drops it down the value scale a little bit more. And then for darker flesh, just a more generous amount of sepia is being added. With just those few colors, we can just about mix any flesh tones that we're looking for. The problem with these flesh tones, they begin to be like a formula. The flesh is all warm. And so now that I've shown you how to mix flesh, I want to show you how to make flesh come alive.
If you're looking to take that next step on your watercolor journey, and this is the kind of content you're looking for, please consider subscribing to our Patreon watercolor channel. It's just $10 a month, $120 a year, cancel anytime. Each month you'll begin receiving relevant, usable watercolor information. Please go to donandrewstudio.com for complete details. Thank you.
I find that anytime I paint the flesh and the figure all warm, the warm is honest, but the flesh isn't alive. The secret to making living flesh is to add a little cool to the painting and then bring flesh, warm flesh, into that cool pigment so that there's a hint of cool to accentuate the mostly warm. The first thing I'm going to do is wet this down. I like a lot of movement, so I'm getting it good and wet. And I'm going to start with colors other than what we would normally expect flesh to be. Mostly cooler blues, violets, something other than flesh tone. It's going to blend down across the drawing. That's just what I want it to do. That was turquoise, a little bit of manganese. I don't normally use the darker blues. I'm staying mostly with the lighter blues, and they're fairly watered down. We've got so much water on the page. that they're doing a lot of blending, usually somewhere between light and light middle value. And now, while it's wet, I'm going to come in and push that flesh tone right back into this cool pigment. Sometimes it'll be a little bit murky at first, and so I hit it a second or third time, what I call pushing. For instance, it's a little neutralized there. Don't be fooled by that. We just go in and push that neutral out of the way, and it begins to blend together on the page. While this start is drying, let's try some other color possibilities. As usual, the first step is to wet the page down. These are lighter washes. I want a lot of blending on the page. So we get it wet. I usually use dirty water, as you can see now. I like dirty water. And we're going to use some arbitrary colors this time. Something other than our normal beginning in terms of what flesh tone might be. And once again, we're going to come in, mix a lot of lighter flesh. While this is good and wet, we're going to push some of that beginning wash out of the way, let it blend on the page, pushing it back to a more believable flesh in some areas, but I'm trying to hang on to and keep some of that underneath wash. It accentuates and makes flesh come alive. I find the key to living flesh is contrast. A little bit of cool makes that warm flesh come alive.